On the eastern side of Israel, where the land meets the kingdom of Jordan, lies a region steeped in biblical history, the Jordan Valley. For thousands of years, this valley has been more than just a geographical border. It has been a gateway of faith, where kings ruled, prophets walked, and pilgrims traveled along its ancient highways. It was here that the Israelites, led by Joshua, crossed the Jordan River into the Promised Land, fulfilling God's promise to their ancestors. This valley has witnessed miracles, battles, and divine encounters that shaped the destiny of the Jewish people. But the story of the Jordan Valley does not end in the past. Today, this land is alive with thriving communities, innovative agriculture, breathtaking desert landscapes, and a deep connection to its biblical roots. I'm David Sussman, and on this episode of Land of the Bible, we'll journey through time to uncover the spiritual and historical treasures of the Jordan Valley, where past and present meet in the heart of the Holy Land. Join me on this incredible adventure. Our first stop today is Kesser El Yehood National Park here in the Jordan River Valley. And what a perfect place to begin, because it's here that the Israelites will cross the Jordan River after 40 years of wandering in the desert during the story of the Exodus. However, it will not be Moses who leads them into the Promised Land. Rather, it will be his main disciple, Joshua. Just imagine the scene, hundreds of thousands of people right on the eastern shores of the Jordan River. The priests with the Holy Ark will begin to cross the river. As soon as their feet enter the water, the river stops and starts to shoot up into the sky. Kesser El Yehood means the fortress of the Jews in Arabic. In addition to the events we just talked about, this area is also revered by Christians who believe that John the Baptist baptized Jesus in the River Jordan in this location. So join me as we continue our experiences here on the Jordan River Valley. There are places in history where geography and destiny intersect, where the topography of the land literally becomes the canvas for a spiritual transformation. One of those places is right here in Gilgal. We're now standing in a modern kibbutz here in the Jordan Valley. However, somewhere around here is the location of ancient Gilgal. Not just a dot on the ancient map of Israel, but a threshold, a place where a wandering nation will step into a promise. But before they can do that, stones need to be laid, flesh needs to be marked, and a feast needs to be remembered. Come with me as we explore Gilgal. Early on in the book of Joshua, God commands the Jewish people to gather 12 stones from the middle of the Jordan River and to stack them up on top of one another. This seems strange. However, philosophically speaking, it is something timeless, the human need to remember. This was a time before smartphones and photographs, where memory was laid into concrete through monuments. And here, this monument represented the 12 tribes of Israel that forever will remember our origin, where we came from, and who brought us out into the land of Israel, the land of the Bible. But memory alone was not enough. At Gilgal, Joshua was given another commandment: to circumcise all the males who had crossed the Jordan River. Circumcision isn't just a ritual, it's a covenant with God. And for the 40 years that we were wandering in the desert, that covenant had lapsed. However, now that we were in the land of Israel, it was time for the men to once again enter into that covenant, one that would reforge the nation's identity. The act was so significant that the name Gilgal itself became a pun in God's mouth. When later in the book of Joshua, he talks about that here at Gilgal, he rolled away the reproach of Egypt. The word Gilgal in Hebrew means rolling. He rolled back the shame of Egypt. And it was here that we reconciled our past as slaves in Egypt in order to step into tomorrow and into the promised land, which symbolically represents for all of us that the only way to create a brighter future for oneself is to reconcile with the past. However, one more act needed to happen to seal the moment, and this would be the first Passover feast here in the land of Israel. The first one taking place in Egypt, as the Israelites hid as slaves in the middle of the night, putting the lamb's blood on their doorposts so that death would pass them over. However, now they celebrated as free people in their own land. This wasn't the only thing to happen during this time. The manna, the mystical food that fell from the heavens, ceased. And now the time of miracles had ended and the time of responsibility began. Gilgal is a place where stones speak, where flesh is marked, where memory is lit by fire and feast. It's where a people become a nation, not by conquest, rather by covenant. It's a place where the external land is claimed only after the internal heart is consecrated.
Imagine walking where Jesus walked, where faith comes to life. Feel the Bible story unfold around you, from the green Galilee to Jerusalem's ancient streets. Experience the serene and welcoming land of the Bible, where miracles happen. Put your heart where His footsteps are. Visit Israel.
Behind me is the modern city of Jericho. However, archaeologists have excavated here, revealing layers of civilization that date back all the way to the time of Joshua. We've now, in our biblical narrative, crossed the river Jordan. The events of Gilgal have taken place, and now the conquest of the land of Canaan has begun, where it will become liberated and brought into the hands of Israel. The first city up is the city of Jericho. The biblical narrative tells us that Joshua receives his prophecy that the priests, the Kohanim, are to circle the city 7 times and blow their shofars. And miraculously, the walls will come tumbling down. Well, archaeologists have been excavating here for over a century. For a long time, they believed that the story didn't take place. However, in the 1980s, archaeologists came here and revealed a significant find, maybe one of the most important finds of the 20th century. What they located was a wall that looked as though it was split in half and came tumbling down. But that wasn't all. They carbon-14 dated a lot of the items there, and sure enough, it dated back to the 13th, 14th century BCE, to the time period of Joshua. And if that wasn't enough, they also found a layer of ash. Why was this layer of ash important? There are only 3 cities in the Bible that are mentioned as being burned down during the conquest of the land of Canaan by Joshua and the Israelites. And Jericho is one of those cities, leading all archaeologists to believe that the biblical narrative that we read in the Bible is historically authentic and relevant to our lives today. Here in the fertile Jordan Valley, between the low hum of modern agriculture and the whispers of this ancient land, is a story that spans over 3,000 years. From clay hives buried underneath the earth to incredible innovative biotechnology. This is the story of bees and those who farm them. Let's start with the past though. In the northern part of the Jordan Valley lies an incredible archaeological excavation known as Beit Shean. Many of you have probably heard of it. It was one of the most beautiful Roman cities when the empire existed here. However, it dates even further back to that, to the Egyptians, to the Philistines, the Israelites, and so many more. Just to the south of it is a much humbler excavation. It was one of the largest cities here, but no mention of kings or prophets. However, what they did find were over 30 ancient beehives. Not wild ones, these were cultivated. That the land of milk and honey, the land of Israel, wasn't just a metaphor. The honey that was being produced here was used both locally as well as for export. However, we're not going to go and relearn how the ancients harvested this honey, but rather we're going to visit a kibbutz known as El Yehood here in the Jordan Valley to learn how they're taking beekeeping to a whole new level and literally saving the world one bee at a time.
El Yehoud is basically the first place in Israel that started with commercial organic farming in Israel. And we started over 50 years ago, long before it was trendy and fashionable. How did we start organic farming so many years ago? It all boils down to this person. His name was Mario Levi. And Mario came on Aliyah the same year we built our kibbutz in 1939, but he didn't come straight to El Yehoud. He went to study agriculture, very famous agricultural school called Mikveh Yisrael. He studied there for 2 years, and then he joined the kibbutz in 1941. Now, having studied agriculture, the members of the kibbutz looked at him and they're like, oh my God, you're the expert. You have to be in charge of our fields. And they made Mario in charge of the fields. And the more years that Mario worked in the fields, the more he realized that we have very, very serious issues with all these chemicals that we're using in the fields. The main problem with chemicals in the fields is that over time you have to keep spraying more and more often to get the same result because the insects build up resistance to whatever you're spraying them with. Or you have to find a stronger chemical because the old one doesn't work anymore. And Mario saw this. He saw that every year we're spraying more and more and more chemicals, and it got to a point where certain crops we were spraying 40 times in a season. So Mario said, this isn't good. In Judaism, we are commanded to look after our bodies and to look after our health. And Mario said, as religious people, we have an obligation towards our community's health. And so Mario came to our general meeting and he made a big stink until they decided two things. One, the two crops that were most intensely sprayed, we stopped growing commercially. And two, we decided that everything around where people live, around the surroundings of the kibbutz, would become a chemical-free zone. In other words, became organic. Now, Mario didn't stop here because we have another saying in Judaism. We say all of Israel are responsible for one another. And so Mario started going up and down the country, talking to Israeli farmers, trying to convince them to become organic. He went to the Ministry of Agriculture and he pounded on their door until they sent him to Europe to take courses in organic farming so he could give those courses here in Israel. And eventually Mario founded the Israel Bioorganic Association, which is the association that supervises and certifies all the organic farmers in Israel. Till today, anyone who knows anything about organic in Israel, they know his name. Being first is really nice, We get to brag, we get to tell everyone that we're the first ones to grow organic in Israel, but there's a downside to being first, and that is when you're first, you don't have anyone to learn from. You have to figure everything out. And the first thing that we had to figure out was, if we can't use pesticides, how do we control the pests in our crops? And no one knew. Luckily for us, we have another very cool member of our kibbutz. His name is Yaakov, and Yaakov is an entomologist, a person who studies insects. And Yaakov said, every pest we have in agriculture has a natural predator. We just have to figure out what goes to what and how do we mass produce them. And so Yaakov started experimenting and breeding bugs and experimenting in the fields, and time goes by, and on the kibbutz they decide we need to build a factory, but not just any factory, a factory that has to do with agriculture. And when they came to the crunch, what are we gonna do? No one really knew. And Yaakov said, hey, I'm breeding all these bugs, why don't we sell the bugs? So we went to the Israeli farmers and we said, do you want to buy some bugs? They said, what are you guys, nuts? We don't have enough bugs in the field. You want us to pay money for bugs? No one knew what we were talking about. Yaakov didn't give up, but the idea to use nature to help agriculture, this is very innovative. No one else in Israel is doing anything like this. We said, what else in agriculture needs a little push from nature? And we came across was the subject of pollination. Certain crops, in order for the flower to turn into a beautiful fruit or vegetable, they obviously need to be pollinated. And the classic example are tomatoes. Tomatoes are pollinated in nature by wind. But in Israel, the majority of our tomatoes grow in greenhouses, so there's no wind in a greenhouse. So how do they pollinate the tomatoes? They used to do it in the old days by hand, what we call manual pollination. People would walk up and down the rows and pinch the flowers to release the pollen. And so the Israeli farmers were always looking for ways to improve the pollination. So we said, what about bees? But honeybees, unfortunately, will not pollinate tomatoes because honeybees want honey. They want sweet pollen. And tomato flowers don't even have a scent. Not only are they fussy about what they eat, they're also fussy about their nature. If outside it's cold, it's cloudy, it's raining, honeybees don't go to work. But luckily for us, there's other bees. These are bumblebees, specifically the earth bumblebee. And these bees pollinate anything and everything. They don't care because they don't make honey. As long as there's lots of it, they're happy. They don't care about the weather. Cold, raining, cloudy, windy, whatever, they will go to work in conditions that honeybees won't go in. Another thing about this bee is it's less aggressive than the honeybee. They don't swarm, they don't chase you. And the hive is much, much smaller. So you can work with these. You can put this in a greenhouse environment and work with them. So we learned to breed these bees in our factory, which is why it's called BioBee. And this is what we sell the farmer, this box. This is what goes out in the greenhouses, in the fields, in the orchards. And by using that, they're using the bees to pollinate. Now, when the farmers started using bees instead of manual pollination, first of all, it saved them a lot of money. And second of all, they were amazed to discover that the yield in their crops increased by an amazing amount of minimum 25%. Today, BioBee Industries, we produce many, many different beneficial insects, we call them. Why beneficial? Because they do no harm. They don't harm people, they don't harm plants, they only go after the pests. And once they get rid of the pests, they die. Unlike chemicals, insects cannot build up resistance to something that eats them. So once you find the right bug for the right pest, that's it. And today, BioBee Industries is one of the world leaders in its field. We export to over 32 countries worldwide. Many farmers who use our products are not organic. Obviously, we serve the organic market, but today many farmers around the world are doing something called IPM, which stands for Integrated Pest Management. And as consumer awareness is increasing and as government regulations are getting stricter and stricter, this is the way of the future. And we like to say that we're making the world a better place, one bug at a time. And slowly, Bezrat Hashem, hopefully, God willing, we'll get there, that we'll all be in a healthier place and eating healthier fruits and vegetables.
I will bless those who bless you, God promised Abraham. Embrace this covenant by connecting with the people of Israel. From Jerusalem's stones to Galilee's shores, experience living faith through their traditions and hospitality. Your journey is more than visiting biblical sites. It's about hearts that welcome your friendship. Your presence matters. Discover Israel.
Hi, welcome to Kibbutz El Yehood in the Spring Valley in Emek HaMa'ayanot in the northern part of Israel. We have our communal area. This is our communal dining room. And up further back here is our synagogue. This is a big communal area with the grass, and we call this area as our Eat, Pray, Love area, which basically connects between the synagogue at the back and our communal dining room, where everybody comes and has their lunch and dinner. Nothing better than living on a kibbutz in Israel. Very special life, communal life. You know, very close-knit community. I made Aliyah 36 years ago from South Africa. I've been living on El Yehoud for the past 25 years. My kids have grown up here. I have 2 grandchildren as well. I run the BioTour. We offer a unique insight into conventional and organic farming, communal lifestyle and innovation in agriculture. What's amazing about the job that I do is I get to see a huge amount of people from overseas and connect with a lot of tourists from all around the world coming to Israel for them to see what Zionism is about, what pioneerism is all about, and to actually connect between myself, who came from overseas, and them coming here as a tourist, connecting the two points.
We're here at Ganesha National Park. This site, located in the Jordan Valley by Emek HaMa'ayanot, the Valley of the Springs, is a gem and a wonder in the area for the whole family. One of the main things that people come here for, specifically at Ganesha National Park, is the water. The Amal River flows directly through this park. What's special about the water? It is a constant 28 degrees Celsius all year round. So even in the middle of winter, you can come and enjoy the beautiful waters of Ganesha. Besides the water, there are other attractions here for the whole family that make this place such a popular destination for tourists and locals alike. The other attractions that you'll find here in the Ganesha National Park are the Tower and Stockade Complex. Now, this is not just a reconstructed history museum, but you can order activities to really bring out the experience of what it was like to be here in the 30s and 40s while the Jewish people were trying to establish their homeland. Another attraction here in the Ganesha National Park is called the Bell Garden. Now, this is probably one of the most unique gardens you'll ever walk through. What we have here is a reminder of the innovation, the fortitude, and the imagination of the young pioneers who came to build this state. You see, they needed a warning sign. They had no money. Remember, this is pre-independence. So they grabbed whatever scrap metal they could, whatever car parts were suitable, and they used them for bells. Now, these bells were used to call people in for meal times. They were used for warning signs, fires, attacks, and in religious communities, even for calling in for prayer times. And finally, for lovers of nature, there is a special plantation called the Israeli orchid. Here you will find plants mentioned in the Bible. And when you're here visiting the Ganesha National Park, be sure to hop on over right next door to Kangaroo. Here you can come say good day to my mates from all the way back in Australia and visit the kangaroos and Australian wildlife. As we have seen today, Ganesha National Park has something to offer for everyone right here in the Jordan Valley. It is amazing to see today the connection between our Torah, our Bible, our land, and our people, and how we can continue that story today. Let's go check out more of the sites in the area and show you what else in Binyamin has been discovered.
The Jordan River has long been a place of passage. From Joshua's miraculous crossing to Christian baptismal sites, this river remains a powerful symbol of faith and renewal. Thank you for being with us, and make sure to join us next time as we connect you to the people, places, and lands of the Bible.